Hello, everyone. Welcome to Elevate Your Business, the show where we dive deep into the world of business success, along with the tactics and best practices used to get there. I'm your host, Ed Jurecki. Thank you so much for joining us today. Throughout this show, we aim to inform and empower business owners, leaders, and entrepreneurs like yourselves by providing invaluable lessons and advice from successful individuals who have traversed a similar path of business ownership. Our guest today has traveled the path of business ownership multiple times. So sit back, relax, and let's give a warm welcome to our incredible guest speaker today, David Goldstein. David is the CEO of Sales Fusion. With a passion for entrepreneurship, he has run multiple companies and most recently founded Sales Fusion, a company focused on providing training and systems to scale businesses fast. As David joins us on the show, he will shed light on what success means to him personally and how his definition has evolved over time, as well as share a lesson or two from that journey. And finally, from today, we'll explore how David has leveraged innovation in his business to work through challenges and achieve his goals. So join me in welcoming David Goldstein as we embark on another great episode of Elevate Your Business. Hello, David. How are you doing today?
Doing great, thanks. How about yourself?
I'm doing absolutely wonderful. I love your background. And just a little while ago, I had a forest behind me. And so I wasn't sure how that would go up. And I think next time I'm going to try a forest or some beautiful background like that.
I started this a couple of years ago, and I move around. COVID. People are like, well, where are you? What's it? And I said, I'm just going to do this cool background. I thought it was cool, and then everyone's like, oh, I like it because it's not one of those like annoying backgrounds. Well, anyways, fast forward, I got away from it, and I had a sales fusion. Let me brand and this and that. And I don't know. I just put this up one day, and someone's like, "It's back! Yeah, way better, cool." And I'm like, "All right, you know what?"
You just convinced me. I was figuring, what? What if I had a different background every couple of podcast shows? I wonder who would say something about that.
See, people are paying attention, right?
Exactly.
Thank you for
Absolutely.
having me.
Yeah, thank you for being on the show. I sincerely appreciate it. Could you tell us a little bit more about yourself and your business?
Yeah. Gosh, I mean, I've been entrepreneurial since I was in the fourth grade. And the first business was picking up after dogs in the backyards and in the cold winter months in February in Michigan. And I made $4 on my first house. And I think, yeah, 2 weeks, I had 10 houses. I was making $40 as a kid, fourth grade in the 80s. And I said, ooh, business is cool. and never kind of looked back, but super passionate about success. One of the reasons I was so excited to be here with you because I know that's one of your passions and helping people. Been in and out of many businesses. If it's not mine, I really enjoy helping founders scale theirs, and because it's not easy out there. But my true passion comes in just helping people. I love helping founders. I've been a mentor to some VC funds. I'm a mentor to MBA students at Baruch. We'll always take a call with folks, and if they want my 2 cents and they're willing to listen, I'll yap for a while. I just love it. I love coaching kids. I coach my kids, and just got roped into coaching again, and something I wasn't planning on. But I just love teaching them success because I think success, winning, it's a behavior and it's a learned trait, and then it's something that you can choose every day to win or not win. And I love helping people get the mindset to learning how to win because it is a learned behavior, and then executing on it. So that's my soapbox.
No, I love it. And in fact, when we had our inaugural conversation, when we talked about that, it was one of those kind of kindred spirit moments where that is our passion. That's why we're doing what we do. And I absolutely love that. And part of that is that work-life balance, that ability to spend the time with our family and friends. So, with that, what is your definition? How would you define success today for you?
That's I like that question, and I'll tell you why. A couple days ago, earlier this week, talking to some founders about success. So, what is success? It's winning, it's hitting your goals, right? But really, what you have to do, and this is what I was talking about the other day with this group, is it really depends on where your outcomes are, right? So you have to map out what is it you're trying to do. So, what does success mean to you at that particular moment? And so it could be milestones. It could be you're doing a raise. It could be you're trying to get your first 10 customers. It could be you're trying to grow from 2 million to 10 million. Whatever it is, you have to define it. And what does that mean for you at that moment? And then what does it mean once you hit that and get to and then the next level of success? And personally, I think people treat the word success as this overarching basket or umbrella. Same thing with goals, right? I'm on a tangent for a second here, but a mistake people make with hitting goals because they're very similar, right? Success goals, how are you going to get there? Is they put these things. I want to sell 100 widgets. Well, okay, I got to go knock on 10 doors. And they put these things out there. And so the success would be selling 100 widgets for the way an average person would think. A way a successful person would think is, okay, success is I went and I knocked on those 10 doors. That's a successful day right there, right? So when you're having that struggle of doing that activity, that task, it's really simple. Did I do it or not do it? It's really easy, right? Yeah, I did. Okay, that's a win, right? Now, okay, did one out of those 10, give me the time of day. Okay, well, okay, now that's a new level of success. So we have to keep redefining success. But the biggest thing is, did you choose at that moment, that day to win, or did you not? And then if we break it down like that, that's how you start winning games. That's how you start winning, I'm going to say championships, because, and I think this ties in, one of my kids, we just won their seventh and eighth grade championship. And the beauty of that was that we were in last place, so we went worst to first. And it was all from teaching them the same thing I'm just saying now. We say focus on the fundamentals. I don't care. We lost our first 5 games in a row, and I said, good. It's going to make the other teams lazy, But they got to see that if you start winning every moment of practice, every moment of in the game, and it's okay, we got 8 minutes in this quarter. I don't care about the rest of the game. I care about these 8 minutes. You start breaking it down. These little wins turn into a championship, and it happens every single time.
Outstanding. So I use a family mantra, keep moving forward. Matter of fact, I was just talking to my daughter about it early this morning. And so it's that incremental daily. Here's my goals. Did I accomplish my goals for that day? Is that a fair way to express that?
100%. And the only thing I'd add to that, this is like a little annoying detail, but were they purposeful goals, right? And that's exactly it. I was just recently trying to re up my game, right? So I like my daily, I wake up and then I'm a big fan of this book called The 5 a.m. Club. And I go off and on. I like everyone, but I was like, all right, but what can I do every day? And so my ritual, so I work out, whatever. So that's like the 20 minutes, meditate, write down what you're grateful for, and then read some sort of book that's going to help you, a business book or whatever, not work related. So I was reading and it said, write down not just what you're grateful for, but what's your intention for the day and 5 little wins. So 5 wins, and I don't just use these. I think these are the numbers, but just bear with me. If you get 5 wins a day, little ones, right? And so it doesn't have to be, it could be goals of business. I put in there actually, I'm going to play with my dog for 5 minutes today. I came in, I was in between, and I said, that was one of my wins today. And so I sat down, I played with her, and I was like, cool, I get to check that box. I literally, like 2 hours ago, that's 150 wins in 1 month. Over a year, it's 1850, almost 2,000 wins just from doing 5 little ones each day. So that's success, right? It doesn't have to be this crazy thing. It's a little ones, like you said, do your goals, make it reasonable, make it actionable, make it realistic, do it, and then you get better at it. And the thing too, I'll add to this, and I think this is very, very important, because I just was thinking of somebody who was talking about like copywriting, and they're like, if you just do it every day, you get better. Yeah, you get better. I've gotten better, but I'm never going to like spit out content. Like I get people to help me. That's just something that I'll never be at that level. So once you get to a certain point, you have to sit there and say, okay, because like when you're starting out, you got to do everything, right? But you got to get to a point where are you really good at, and then make yourself better, and then let other people do the things you're not that good at. So I will never ever do things I'm not good at, because I don't need to raise that. It's much better if I outsource that and then focus on myself, bigger ticket items that I'm good at, that I can control. All that effort for me to become a good copywriter, I can become a much better leader, operator, whatever.
So, how has your definition of success changed over time?
This is an interesting one. It just popped in my head. So I hope it sounds okay, and I hope it doesn't sound corny, because I used to think this was corny. I'm really big into mindset right now, and I never was. I mean, I was always like, gotta have a winner's attitude, a winner's edge, like get your mind there. So over the course of my career, success, money, right? Like you want to have stuff, you want to do stuff. And money is a scorecard. It's part of the scoreboard. You look at any successful person. I don't care if it's an entrepreneur, a musician, a ballet dancer, a poet. It doesn't matter. They're not motivated by money. Like we all want money. It's like you're not gonna turn it away, but they're motivated about being the best. They're the best at what they can do. So I was just trying to think of an example, and it came in. Itzhak Perlman, the very famous violinist. I read in a book once, it had nothing to do with him, but it was an example. And he said, If I miss 1 day of practice, I can tell. If I miss 2 days of practice, the critics can tell. If I miss 3 days of practice, my fans can tell. He only cared about being the better, 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 better. So I think my definition of success had changed years ago from, dude, I want to kill it and be a billionaire, whatever those, this like,
Yeah.
to I want to be the best at this. And so number one. Number two, I think this ties into how I've changed, how I've evolved in my definition of success, but it's very important that this is one of the definitions of success, that what you're doing is going to better people. So, if you're a violinist, then you're making music that's going to move people's souls or whatever, right? I used to tell people, I used to do a lot in healthcare, and I would say, if you lecture, workshops, and say, if you don't believe in your product, get out. Like you have no business doing something that you don't believe in. But if you really truly believe that what you're doing is meaningful and this isn't healthcare, and you really think it's going to help patients, you don't need an alarm clock. Right? You should get up every day. You can make a difference in another human being's life. Like, man, that is successful. So what are you doing? Is that rewarding successful? Are you the best at it? That's successful. I don't think you can be successful if you don't have that competitive bone to be the best, right? Like, I think you'll be okay. But I also think there's a difference between CEOs and everyone else, because something gets you out every day to be better, right? And you're better than the competitors, better for your customers. So you have to, I think that's one of the definite definitions. But going back to mindset, I think what we think about is what we are, right? And being an entrepreneur, I mean, man, you have those days like, I suck. Why am I doing this? And other days you're on top of the world. And I think really, that's why I finally got into meditating. I said, oh, that's corny. That's, my sister's a therapist. You should meditate. And then one therapist I was talking to, she said, do you like Star Wars? Your kids watch? Like, oh, yeah, my kids love Star Wars. And they said, Obi-Wan Kenobi meditates. And that's when he knows when he needs to use the lightsaber and when he doesn't need to, but he can use the force. And I'm like, all right, I'm sold. And I think that I've noticed that mindset, that clarity, making decisions. I think there's a big misconception. One of the hard things about being a leader is hiring the right people, firing the wrong people, holding people accountable. And there's an art to it. And for years, I separate people's their role in business is from their role as a human being, right? So I'll never forget, I was out with someone else, just like, man, like on them all day years ago, back when I was a salesman 20 years ago. And then we went for a drink. I'm like, what's up, man? So tell me about your girlfriend. I'm like, what's that? And he's like, wait, you're actually being nice. I'm like, yeah, well, the business day is over. you're a great person. You're just a terrible business person today. So it's having the clarity and the mindset. How do you dictate your life? How do you interact with others? How can you have a conversation without berating somebody? You can get your point across without, right? And all these things. And what are your true intentions? What are you doing? Why are you doing it? I think all that really gets into our subconscious, and that's helps us either do those things we don't want to do, right, or not. And so I think mindset is super important as a competitive edge against yourself and against your competitors. I really believe that.
Through our journeys, as you think about your definition of success before, definition of success today, there's a journey there. Through that journey to achieve success as you've defined it today, what are one or two key challenges and the lessons learned associated with those?
I love that question too, because as you were saying this journey, the first thing that popped in my head is you can't go from here to here without failing. You have to stumble. You have to get knocked around. I was listening to a podcast from a Navy SEAL instructor who said, you go through SEAL, the month, people tap out, then you go to Hell Week, and only 11% will graduate from Hell Week. And this is people that have been through it all, right? And he said, if you didn't have challenges in life, you didn't have those setbacks, the ones that were perfect don't make it to a SEAL. And you got to have that. So I think, first of all, you put yourself out there, and if you fail, you fail, and you got to get back up, right? And so I think one of the biggest things, and people say that, you're like, yeah, I get it, until you go through it, right? Until you experience it. And there's a big difference I've learned between doing something and having to say, I'll never give up, because you could be doing the wrong thing every single day and be stubborn as hell and go, I'll never give up. I'm in this so long. Oh, that's garbage. I have not seen a company yet that hasn't pivoted, right? So the mistake people make when they raise money, that is, everyone does the same hockey stick growth. I'm like, nobody's funding you for your projections. They're funding, like, when it goes bad, what are you going to do to protect their investment, right? And so I think that's really, going into a little challenge, right? I think this is very important. This goes into mindset. I was, gosh, my health tech company, I was in front of the CEO of a health system who happened to become secretary of VA. Like, this is a big time guy. I'm about 30 seconds into my presentation, and he just goes, "Stop. This is the kind of presentation you do for my lieutenants. I don't need, tell me what it is you do, what you want, and you got about another 30 seconds." And I'm like, I just looked at him. I still can, and I'm like, "Can you give me like just 1 minute?" And I'm like, and I just, turned off everything in my head, and I said, nothing matters what I'm going to say except if it's impactful. So just shut it off and use the force, going back to Star Wars. And I did. And that strictly came from because I had trained, I practiced that presentation so much. I didn't need anything. I was just trying to do it the textbook way. So I think that comes into, are you prepared? So when there is a setback, can you navigate? Can you pivot? I think also, do you do a pre-mortem, right? So what could possibly, we spend all this time like trying to plan, but what are you planning for what could go wrong? And are you mitigating that? So when there is a setback, you can pivot. But I mean, gosh, I remember in that venture, oh God, we'd spend a fortune, a few $100,000 on our website and blah, blah, blah. Nowadays, you don't have to do that. But, we did. And we were so excited and brought in a new CTO and we were really excited about it. And he said, "Well, let me go through your systems and I'll come back." And because we were like, "Oh, we got to do this thing." He goes, "Well, let me audit you first." And I'll never forget this. We're in the conference room. And he's just looking at me, and my team was in there, but he was looking at me. He's like, "I'm just the messenger here. Well, your system doesn't do anything. They didn't do it right. Like blah blah blah." And I'm sitting there like, I mean, wanting to throw this guy through the window, and he gets done. And he's looking at me. "So what do you want to do?" And I said, "I think I need about 10 minutes to go take a walk because anything I'm going to say right now is not going to be helpful." And I was like, "All right, well, how much does it cost to fix it?" And the thing is, and we had to go back out and find the money. And I mean, this thing that we'd been working on for 6 months, right? Ready, I already told people it was ready, blah blah blah. It wasn't. And you want to jump off a cliff, right? You're just like, "Oh my God, it suck." And how did I let this happen? And I remember walking around outside, and I said, "Well, I got my face to the choice. If I'm the business guy I think I am, I got to do it, make it right, figure it out, get through the mud of it, right? Or I can just pack it up and close it down." But there's nothing in between. And I was like, you know what? I can't look at anybody ever in my life and say, "Well, I just took the easy way." And so we did it, and it turned into be a really good platform. I think that experience helped me when we were doing another business that just the market forces got shut down. And you're talking about employees and product and all this stuff. And again, deal with it. You go back to we whiteboard everything and say, "Okay, well, all right, how do you turn this into a different application?" And we adapt and we evolve. The Navy SEAL podcast, I wish I'd watched that back in the day because his answer is good. When there's a problem, good. Now we know what the problem is. We'll
Right.
figure out the reasons why later. We don't care. Right now, it's good. Let's fix it. I'll deal with whoever's mess it was at a different time. It's not important right now. And I think that is such a cool philosophy. You cannot. Let me tangent real quick. Yeah, over the weekend, where I was telling my kids about sales and knocking the doors, and they're like, "Daddy, wasn't there a kind of guy like called the cops?" And I'm like, "Yeah, he threatened to." And it was in back when you went knocking on doors every day, and did you see the that sign? I'm like, "What sign?" The one that says no soliciting. No, I missed it. Oh, and he's yelling at me and this and that. Well, anyways, I get back to the office and my boss is, "Oh, I got a phone call," and I'm like, "Oh boy," and he goes, "Finally." Finally, you never pushed it too much until we get a letter or a phone call. Now you made it. You earned your stripes. I'm
Ha!
like,
I
oh,
love it. Well, I'll tell you what, I give yourself and that CTO who came in and did an honest assessment and gave you that honest feedback a lot of credit. I've been in that CTO's role. I've done that many times through my career. And I can tell you that more often than not, those top executives don't want to hear it. And it's bad on them. It's not conducive to a very positive culture, trusting culture. But the fact that, yeah, I can understand the anger, the frustration that as a CEO, you thought everything was good And I also agree with the Marine context, which is, hey, you now know what the problem is. That's the very first thing. And so acknowledging that, having understanding of that's a big deal. Now you know what you need to do to start moving forward, or you've got something you can plan what those next steps are to fix that situation. So I actually applaud you both because
Thank you so much.
I've
It's
unfortunately been on the recipient of, well, we'll just say very bad outcomes from delivering honest
it
news.
amazes me how business leaders can are, and a lot of them are like that, and it gives, if you spin it, it gives us a huge competitive advantage, right? I mean, just the closed mindedness people are sometimes, and they don't want to hear problems, they don't want to hear, and it's so important to seek the truth, process it, deal with it, fix it, move on. So thank you.
So the last question is all around innovation, and we know that there's a tremendous amount going on right now. There has been for years, but we're in a different era. So two-part question. From an innovation perspective, how are you leveraging that today, and where do you see it going into the future?
Well, I think we'd spoken before about this. I think technology is a tool, innovation is a necessity. You automate anything and everything you can automate because human error will always be around. But I mean, for me personally, AI has been transforming, revolutionary if you use it correctly. What would take us weeks to do, we can do it in hours or days now. Just even in writing, I had done a test with somebody. I was advising a company, and I didn't like where they were going. And I told the CEO, I said, "Well, I think you need some other. This isn't fun." But just as a fun thing, because they were going down a really bad path, and I went into, and this was in chat GPT, and I said, "Okay, give me the pluses and minuses, blah 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 blah." Long story short, I developed a whole thing of what system they should stay on, use. Here's your SOP for it. Here's boom, 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 all these things. And I did it in a couple hours, but I sat on it and gave it to them the next day because I wanted them to think it was just the theatrics of it. And I'm like, this is what your team like. And he's like, oh, how'd you know us? I'm like, well, because your team doesn't. And the point is a little project like that can bang out pretty fast. Technology and innovation. First of all, we have to keep being better than our competitors. We have to keep being better than we were yesterday for our customers. And anything we can do, I'm a huge believer in you wrap the package. It's got to look pretty. It's got to be pretty. It's got to be better. But you have to be better, and you have to strive. What can you do to innovate in your business every single day to make your customers happier, better? And on that, I got to throw in my 2 cents too. Companies put way too much focus in new customers. It's very important, but customers are the lifeblood. You got to focus on your current customers. Keep them, keep them, keep them. Get them to buy more. Get them to buy more often. We talk about a lot about geometric growth in that regard, but the only way you're going to keep them is through innovation. Personally, with our business, with things we do, there's so many programs that you can utilize AI. I don't need certain staff members anymore because I can get I still need them, but man, I get it done quicker, better. I
Right.
hope that makes sense. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, we're still the architects. We're still the innovators. And,
Yes.
and the way I characterize this is life or business or however you want to frame it. It's a mosaic of a lot of pieces and parts that come together to form whatever picture, whatever vision that you've got. And so the AI could help us in one or more creation of those individual objects that are part of that mosaic, but it's still us designing what is the picture going to be? How detailed is it? What pieces and parts are in it? How are they going to fit together? So I use AI all over the place, but I'm still the one who has to architect that final output. I got to architect what it's going to be, and then I got to architect that final output. And I allow AI in between to help me craft better, more quality components than I could do, or it does it 99 times faster in many cases than I could do if I sat there and said, okay, what should my marketing message be around success today?
Well, yeah, and the thing too is like just think about research. Like it can spit back a bunch of things for you to think about. And the way I approach chat is it's a junior employee. So if you think of a newspaper, the editor is still going to review a journalist's column, especially a junior one. An attorney or a law firm is going to review. They're going to have the junior partner or associate doing a lot of the legwork, but they're going to finesse it. They're going to architect it. They're going to say, "I want you to look. Here's the parameters." So I treat it like I'm whiteboarding, or like I'm talking to like an employee, and then I treat it like that. No, hey, listen, this is not at all what I was looking for. I actually, but point two, expand on this, and I just go like I would if I was reviewing a paper, but then ultimately you have to put your own 2 cents into it. You have to finesse it. But what you said is the architecture of it. You cannot replace that. You just don't need to hire an army of people to do that stuff anymore. It can remove some of that. People go like, well, it's eliminating jobs. Well, it's eliminating the jobs that you don't need. I mean, that's an okay, right? That's an okay thing. You're never going to eliminate people, but they said, what's the thing with cars? You're not going to need a blacksmith anymore with horseshoes. Well, now you need mechanics and you need
There are,
computer engineers.
but there's still metal fabricators out there everywhere.
Yes, yes, yes. And show me a manufacturing plant with robots, and I'll show you some people there troubleshooting, leading, innovating. But you cannot replace the human element. You can replace average people, and I really harp on that. I think I said earlier, like an average thinker versus successful thinker. That's a mindset. I probably should have illustrated that more than a mindset. It's a mindset. People are like, oh, you're kind of mean. You're saying this person's average. I'm like, they are. That's okay. They can become. We can teach them how to become excellent and successful. But there is a difference between top tier folks and average people, and it's a choice. Everybody can be whatever they want to be. It's a mindset choice. If you're average, your job is going to probably get replaced. Just is. If you're willing to say, hey, listen, I need to learn some new skills and I need to, whatever. And what can I do to make a difference? Well, guess what? Your job won't be replaced because you can't replace
So keep moving forward, continuous learning, all of those other characteristics.
that. you know, it's going the extra step and it's just doing it. I'll give you an example. And this isn't me like, because I don't think this is anything special. I just think, frankly, I was surprised most people don't do this. When I was a young sales rep selling payroll back in the day, when knocking on those doors I mentioned, I interviewed for a management role. I was young. I mean, I was like, ended up being the youngest and whatever, the fortunate in our company. And I came in and said, well, here's what I'm going to do. And, here's how I'm going to do it. Sales director was like, well, what's this? I'm like, well, my plan. And he's like, oh, okay. And I'm like, listen, I'm not experienced. So I don't know. This is just when I know how I would do it, but it's a working document. And he's like, nobody's come in with something like that. Fast forward, I'm a manager. The big VP's in yapping around, whatever. Well, we got to get more sales. We got to, and I said, well, we have this whole customer service team that talks directly with our clients every single day. Why don't we get them to do referrals and all this stuff? We'll reward them. And he goes, yeah, Goldstein, how the hell are you going to do it? You don't think we thought about that? I'm like, oh, geez, no. But I said, I don't know what you guys have thought about or not, but I can tell you how I would do it. Here's a plan. And he just stares at me and goes, oh, prove you're running it. I go, okay, cool. And then we turn into success. And the thing is, I just mapped it out. Anyone could have done that. It wasn't like I was special. I just was thinking, what would I want if I was a guy? I'd want, like don't just talk cheap, write it down. And that's
Exactly.
another thing I want to share with your audience. I got this from Lee Iacocca's book, and I've always done it. When he was there, Robert McNamara, who became the defense secretary, but he was president of Ford. And anytime you had an idea or something, he wouldn't listen to anything unless it was on paper. And the reason for that was talk's cheap, write out your ideas. If you write it out, it forces you to be concise, think about things, whatever. And then Lee Iacocca, had that when he was running Chrysler, and I've always operated with that, and I hold it myself accountable to that. So I write it out, and because then you see the holes, you see, or what your idea is. Typically, isn't what it evolve it, but it's a really, really good practice to. Again, most people don't. They just don't, and so how do you get successful? Just do the things non-successful people aren't willing to do. That's that simple.
So there were a tremendous number of insights, tactics, and suggestions throughout the conversation. If you were to leave our audience with one key takeaway for their consideration, what would that be?
Well, clearly, I like to talk, man. Putting it down to one is hard. Execution. Okay, so this is going into my book. I'm writing a book for entrepreneurs. The biggest reason why folks fail, whether you're a founder, an entrepreneur, you're a business leader at a big company, you're a manager, whatever it is execution. And it's really, really hard to execute. And I think the reason for that is we get caught up on our product, our service, our widget is so good, right? And so we keep thinking about fulfillment. We think about making this technology better and all this stuff at the expense of actually doing the things we need to do to run the company to sell, right? Everything's our revenue is the lifeblood of any organization. Every Fortune 500 company is a sales driven organization. General Motors is a sales company that just happens to make cars. I came from ADP. It hit me there when I was ADP. I'm like, this is a sales company that just happens to do payroll. Like that. So
Mhm.
the revenue has to be in the forefront, servicing your customers and fulfillment, of course, but it comes from planning. What do we need to accomplish? Okay, let's back out. What do we have to do? How do we do it? So it's strategy. You started this off from, I think you said about the tactics going into it. Everything comes from strategy. What are the tactics? How are we going to do it? And then what do I have to do every single day? If you map that out, if you start your day with planning what you're going to do, you end your day. This is what I do. Did I do this? What didn't I do? What do I need to do that? Maybe there's a reason. What am I going to do tomorrow? At the end of the week, what did I accomplish? What am I going to do next week? If you just start doing that, it trains you over time to do the right things. Okay. Because that's all that matters. And then do them, right? Just execute, just get it done, get it done, get it done, get those little wins. They like turn into big wins. Execution on every aspect that has to be executed on. And I know people talk about that. If you don't know, a great book is Execution, The Discipline of Getting Things Done by Larry Bossidy. It's an older book, I think from like '02 or something. Phenomenal. At the end of a meeting, you got to send out your recap notes. Again, write down. It forces you to process what's important, what are the takeaways, what are action steps. Send it out to people. Now you got a record that they got it. I used to, in the office, I used to print it out and give it to people and sign. I mean, like let them know, like I am on you. You've been given this, and it's easy because we agreed to it, right? It's all about that and those little steps, right? Writing a recap and then just doing it every day. Hold yourself accountable. Did I do this or not? And that's why there's a really good book, like Make Your Bed. It's written by another Navy SEAL guy. He's an admiral. And he said the reason why they make their beds the first day in the morning, SEALs of it, because you accomplished one task. Now you've already accomplished something. That's why the 5 a.m. club start with working out. You already did the hardest thing. You worked out. Okay, now everything else is easier throughout your day. But you trained your brain that you're on task.
Right.
You're going to complete your tasks. Execute, execute, execute. If you can't execute, you will not be successful. And
Yeah.
it's a choice.
So if I
It's a
was to
choice. And
frame
then hold
that,
yourself accountable to. Sorry.
no, I was just going to say to frame everything that you just said, either you've got to know or define where you're going, you've got to plan the tactics to get there, and you've got to execute those tactics. And then pulling forward what you talked about earlier, small incremental improvements every day equal big improvements over time.
100%. 100%. 100%. Don't worry about making the $10 million. Make that $1,000 today or this week. Learn how to win. Then it just happens. It just starts compounding and compounding. But most importantly, you're training your brain, your subconscious, that mindset to be a winner, to complete, to execute. And when you start getting good at executing, you start executing bigger and better things. It happens all the time. It's Elon Musk didn't just wake up and like, oh, let me build three like successful public companies. It all built upon, and he just starts doing bigger and better things. But that's because he did the little things and not afraid of it. It's just all into planning, fulfilling that plan, moving on, and then evaluating. That's what I was going to say. It's very important to evaluate what you execute on. You could be doing the wrong things the right way all day long and fail. So we have to make sure is what I was doing worth it? Is it making my company money? Is it making my customers happy? I tell sales reps, it's still simple. Is what I'm doing right now making me money? If not, okay, stop and go do something that's making me money.
Right.
Is what I'm doing gonna make me money? Maybe I'm networking or something. Is what I'm doing gonna make me money or put me in a business to make money? No, then just stop.
Right.
Hang up that phone with your buddy, and go to work. So it's just these three things. It's very simple, but along with that is don't be afraid to work. Don't take the easy way. If you put in the hard work in the beginning, you do it the right way, it does get easier. Automation makes it easier stuff, but don't take the shortcuts and just do what it takes. I was talking to about a deal. I was working on a JV last week with somebody, and they said, "Well, something, something," and I said, "Well, what do you mean?" I'm like, I said, "You have an off switch?" And he's like, "Well, what do you, I mean, like, why do you want to talk? 9 o'clock tonight?" And he's like, "Well, I have my, I was like, dude, you are building your like, there's no, and I'm all about balance and stuff, but there's also times that you got to kill it."
Right.
And then there's times you just say, I'm taking these next 2 days off. I'm going to read a book. But the thing is, you can't be afraid to work. There's no excuses. You just got to push through, power through on the right things, and then just rinse and repeat.
Yeah, perseverance,
Yep.
etc. Well, I appreciate so much all of your insights. And I want to thank you all for joining us today. And a special thank you to our guest, David Goldstein, for sharing some of his journey highlights with us. We hope this conversation has left you inspired and motivated to embrace the challenges of entrepreneurship with resilience, innovation, and adaptability. Remember, success comes in many forms, and it's essential to define it for yourself. Take the lessons shared by David to heart as you navigate your own entrepreneurial journey. Embrace change, seek out opportunities for growth, and always be willing to adapt to the ever evolving landscape of business. Thank you once again to our wonderful guest speaker, David Goldstein, and thank you all for tuning in. We look forward to seeing you next time as we continue exploring the stories behind exceptional entrepreneurs. Stay resilient and stay innovative, everyone. Have a great day.
Thank you for having me.